But Biz, you and I talked about it because
check out that file.
I'm on like this.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
I'm on like this ultimate kick on this search for greatness.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is my thing right now. Is you start when you have kids, you start looking at life different, and you go, something could happen to me right now.
Right.
And what am I leaving behind for my kids? And if they don't look at me and all my friends don't look at me as a great man, a great person, first I got to figure out what the hell that means.
So, tell you what, why don't you do the introductions? You're very good at that, and then we'll get philosophical.
Yeah, we got to touch back to this.
No, we're going to go to that. We just want to get the thing started so we know who we are, what we got going on.
It's been rolling. Yeah, so we're good. So I do want to. I'll start center here. This is Jamond Hackley, creator, owner, absolute proprietor of one of my favorite lines of cigars called Definition Cigars, based out of Carrollton, but do their production in Nicaragua, an area we know well. Having worked actually with the manufacturer there and having been there to the fields, and if you
got pulled over by the police there, that was my first time going. It was cool to get shook down by somebody else. Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. We're looking for practical knowledge, and that rolls straight over into Busy B when it comes to Nicaragua. Busy B, will you please tell us what shoes not to wear in Nicaragua when you're going to the fields?
Here we go again. Oh, he don't know this story. So,
what did you wear?
Just guess.
Okay, hold it. Just let's paint the picture here.
Please do.
They're taking us. Placencia is taking us out to the farms because they've got seedlings. They've got everything moving. They're good to go. 7:00. We're gonna watch the sunrise. We're gonna do a little bit of filming, but we're gonna be out there so we can understand the essence and the way that the plants talk to you, because they really talk to you, right? And so we go, and they want to get us into the plants. We're in this beautiful, absolute, unbelievable sunrise that comes up, and we've got to get into the field. So we start walking our way in there, and then we keep walking our way in there, and then all of a sudden we hear, son of a mother, what, this muddy ass son of a bitch. I look over at Biz. What's Biz got on? What do you think Biz is wearing in the fields of Nicaragua?
Sneakers.
But what sneakers?
Jordans.
13 piano cat black. Yeah, bro, they're out of there.
What was you thinking?
I didn't think that. I didn't know we was going to go in the muddy stuff. My feet was. I wanted to look good too, but the feet was comfortable, and I didn't. And when and here's the bad thing: I had hiking boots with me, but I thought we was going. I thought we were going for like a field in the factory day. Next thing I know, we're loading up on this cattle truck, and we heading out, and guns are blazing, and we down this trail, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. And then we got to the spot. I'm like, all right, this is bad. I'm taking camera bags out, getting everything. And then Brandon and Gabe took a left, went to this field, and these leaves. I'm like, all right, we should be okay. Squish. And like the shit was up to my ankles.
Oh, you completely ruined those sneakers.
Bruh, when I say, like, you ever seen a movie when a gunshot go off and birds fly out the trees?
Right.
Yeah, as soon as that first sneaker hit that patch of mud, birds was flying out the trees.
I was letting loose.
Oh, I was heated. I forgot the mission. I didn't give a shit about no camera. They was we got to film. I'm like, man, my shoe was messed up. I got to. Anyway,
that's exactly what it was.
When I say I learned my lesson, and we absolutely got a historic, probably. I've never shot anything like this in my life, so it all ended out good. Artisans. Have you ever seen that?
The movie?
The thing that we did when we showed from seed to shelf.
I never did.
I will show you that.
Check that
so
out.
Let's put that in the description below.
We'll do that. That will be where I sacrifice my pair of Jordan 13 Black Cats. Anyway, so
by the way, that was worth 1 second of that film.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how much of that film.
Click. Next spot. No, we staying here. We gonna shoot some more stuff, man.
We have to.
We got to shoot some more stuff because these shoes right here. Nah, we got. But anyway, so what we do is we have a normal conversation, and you know, as we're all in cigars and everything, but we kind of tend to go off the beaten path, not just from what you do, but I like to kind of know how you arrived there. What's your daily thoughts? What's your daily battles, struggles? What do you want to do?
Conversation. This ain't about.
I don't
getting to know Definition Cigars and going through. And I'm sorry.
It's about you.
We just kicking it.
It's about you.
Let's do it.
That's what this is. Let's circle back to what we were just talking about, which is greatness.
Philosophize a little bit.
Let's philosophize a little bit.
Yep.
Define greatness for me, because I need help defining that.
We've tried.
Yeah. For me, in my perspective, it starts with the mental approach. Greatness comes in all different shapes and sizes, whether it's from an athletic perspective, business, or whatever someone considers their passion. Somebody's passion may be chess, and there's greatness, you find it there. But I think in any instance that you find someone that you classify as great in whatever walk of life it is, you talk to that person, it starts with their mindset, how they approach the thing that they are great at. And for me, Brandon, I don't know if you recall this conversation. It was a time when you and I were talking. Is that you said to me, and whether you was shooting a breeze or not, but you said to me, Jamond, you have this quiet way about you that I know you want to kill it. You want to do the best that you can, and I was raised from humble beginnings and never get away from those. But my mental approach is to, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to waste an opportunity. I don't waste a conversation. I don't waste an experience. I believe in some very specific things that are the core of me, and it helps my mental approach to be the best that I can be, and what I try to do. So, long story short, is greatness for me, and what it looks like is what is my mental approach to being great. So you can hear people say, man, I'm trying to be the greatest, I'm trying to be this, and you sit back and watch them and you say,
no, you aren't. You're full of shit. Yeah, and I don't know if that's the direction, but I see it all the time. It's like,
it doesn't match.
I'm trying to be great, or I'm going to be great. Yeah, but then you're still going out on Tuesday nights. You're still doing this. You're still not making moves. You're still working for the people you don't like to work for.
Right.
Like, you're not actually doing it. Mm-hmm. And that is, to me, a travesty that is just sweeping through our world right now. Is people all want to be this.
Do you think it's though the sense of entitlement? When I say by sense of entitlement, everybody thinks that they can watch one YouTube video and then boom, I'm good, or they can read one book. Nobody, when I say entitlement, they feel like, I know a lot of people, and it's not young people, it's not millennials, it's just a lot of people think that if I make one pass at it, then it should come. I think yes, but I also think we're in the world, like, for what it's worth, the Trumpism. And what I mean by that is, and I think there's beauty in this, but I think there's detriment to this, which is, I'm the greatest that ever lived. I'm the greatest that ever lived. And they said, well, what about this? I'm the greatest that ever lived. And I think our culture has a lot of that. You just have the Instagram, people who want to be the best, and they're standing behind some Lamborghini that they rented so that way they could tell people they're the best, so people can subscribe to their business model. But have they actually done that?
Right. And there and again, you speaking about our society, it's a microwave society too. Just the world in general, you at the press of your mobile phone, you can get food delivered here and never moved your ass off of the couch. Can you
Absolutely. You say what you want.
You can sit here and my grandparents helped to raise me, and my grandma made meals every day. When we was hungry, you had to wait for your meal. It's not this at the touch of your mobile phone you can get whatever. So my next point is that in the hip hop culture, there's a term that is said so many times, is that you wasn't there shooting with me in the gym. So you see Damian Lillard go out here and drop 50 points on the basketball court. Nobody was in that empty gym with him when he's working on his game. What you see is Friday Night Lights. Yep. And then you get this kid that thinks, I'm Damian Lillard. That is it. That is the greatness piece that we're missing there, is that, all right, man, Damian Lillard can do that. I can do that too. Yes, he is an example of what you can be with hard work and dedication. But there is this mental approach that you have to have first to be able to commit and say that I'm going to do it, because you can't manifest just anything by just saying it. There's a certain way in which you have to transition and commit, and it starts in between the ears. Mm-hmm. So Brandon, we spent some time on it. Your meaning of greatness is your own, based on how you see greatness. And I'll clean it up to say that you have the conversation of LeBron and Michael Jordan. Who's better and who's greater at the game of basketball? And people have differences. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. Both great guys in relation to the numbers of the game, but greatness has to be how you view it, and then your mental approach to how you're going to be great.
So that is my internal struggle, I believe. And or it is slightly related to that, because we talk about, and this was the question I was going to ask you, is greatness objective or subjective? And by that, you mention Michael, LeBron, we'll throw in Kobe.
Yep.
They are objectively great.
Objectively great, yes.
Are there does that mean that Rodman, Pippen, we'll say we'll call them tier 2 players, were they also great? Or do you have to be the very best at what?
To be great.
In order to be great, do you have to be the very best, or do you have to be the very best to you?
I don't think so. I think, so what you hear a lot of those guys say, even all sports, football, soccer, whatever it is, those guys are so focused on being the best that they can be and get the best out of themselves that at the end of the day, you hear them all say, I'll let whomever decide where I fall in the grades. It's that debate isn't for me, because my greatest competition is myself and how I see greatness. LeBron says, for instance, Michael Jordan was his muse, was the guy that was his template of, I'm not speaking for him, but that was probably his template of what it was to be great in the game of basketball. So that is his starting point, and then it becomes a mental thing for him to challenge himself with God-given talent to maximize that. And what I'm saying is that, man, I think you let somebody else at the end of the day determine your greatness to them or to whatever. Being great for yourself and knowing that you challenged yourself and you maximized your ability and you had the appropriate approach. And yeah, there's certain benchmarks you're going to hold yourself accountable to say, okay, I haven't reached this, and then why? And then you went to the fact of somebody, hey, went out on Tuesday night, felt like crap on Wednesday, wasn't able to hit the mark. That's not the way of being great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like the Floyd Mayweather will go out, he'll be in Vegas, he'll go out till 3:00 in the morning and then run home. Right. That's greatness.
That's greatness. That's the epitome of
That's why he's 50-0 or 49-0 and then 1-0 with McGregor. But regardless.
Fantastic example. That's it. That's continue to challenge yourself in a mental approach. Yeah, this guy is sitting in the club and everything's going on and doesn't drink, isn't partaking in this. So I think it's any of those guys who have done special things in business or in the sports world, they have certain core values that they have, and it transitions to their mental approach, and you equal out to 6 championships, 50-0, or whatever it is. And that's how they continue to challenge themselves, because mentally they have benchmarks and where I want to get to. And the only way you can continue to, for me, is to continue to grow inside of who you want to be is being able to see that I'm inching. So I'm on the right path. So let me go harder.
Mm-hmm. Biz, what are your benchmarks?
Wow, you caught me off guard with that.
Yeah, I was hoping so.
I do have a certain level of a success internally. I wanted to reach about my 50th, but that's creeping up. I can still get it when we get there. But there's a thing that was introduced to me by a mentor here about the 10,000 hour rule. And I wanted to go off on this other venture. I wanted to start a trucking company because I was so much wanting my own business. I love working with everybody, working for everybody, but I've owned a couple things. I've ran a lot of stuff, and I'm in a ocean full of entrepreneurs and business owners. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, man, I'm a worker bee still. I want to own my own path, do my own thing. And so when I went balls to the wall, got my DOT, did all this stuff, talked to you about it, went to go get everything ready. And right then when the mentor that was actually going to help fund this venture, he said, before we do this, he says, you know the Michael Jordan rule about 10,000 hours. He says, do you have anything in your life right now that you've had 10,000 hours invested in? I said, well, yeah, this camera, and I've been a DJ since I was 12. He says, so why, let me ask you, do you want to start over with hour one? And if you already have 10 hours into something, evidently you feel like you still have not mastered this.
Sure.
So my benchmark is to now master what I already know that comes to me naturally. The DJing thing is not going to be easy, but just that camera. What can that camera actually do for me that I have not yet done with it? Mm-hmm. Now, what the benchmark is, I don't know. I get assignments, I get tasks, I have things, I have clients, I have whatever, and they get done. But what is that one thing that will actually, with that camera or cameras, that will push me over the edge of to where I want to be able to do something that people come to me just for the particular reason that this is what you do. Mm-hmm. You know, not being the man, but just knowing that in my lane,
sure, that is
what if I know that this person can sing a certain way, I'm going to that person. We have a mechanic, you have a barber, you have a doctor that, you know, they play that lane very, very well. They get paid very, very well, and they're respected for their skill set. So I think that's the benchmark that I want. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's something there, but I feel that I'm just halfway there with it.
Right.
So I have 10,000 hours. I need another 10.
Sure.
To really make sure that I got it dialed in. But one thing that you forgot that you told me is that, along with your question about what actually is success or what is greatness and all that, he said it. And you don't remember you said it. Just like we said about reading a lot of books. I love reading books. But you said you have to get to the point where somebody else can't tell you what your greatness is. You have to decide it for yourself. Mm-hmm. It came from you. Mm-hmm. So sometimes
we never had the conversation.
Mm-hmm. And we get so caught in chasing something else and looking for others' opinions, or we look right past what was already in front of us, which is, what do you think? Sometimes you just got to get in front of that mirror and ask that question to the person in front of that mirror.
I think you're exactly right. And sometimes that mirror is scary. Sometimes when you look at that mirror, you're looking at your demons. Mm-hmm. And there's an element of that's also why I like cigars. That's why I like the patio when we get out there and we sit, because we sit down, the two of us or solo, and we invite all our demons. Mm-hmm. And
he has to force me not to talk about work.
Let's have a conversation.
Talk about conversation about this and to get out of the zone. But once we get there, like, I leave his house with so much revelation within myself. When you have that long, even though it's a 10-minute drive home, it makes you think. If you've ever read a book, seen a movie or something that just makes you think, imagine what a good one-on-one come to Jesus conversation would do.
Yeah, I think it's important, and this goes back to mental approach. I don't want you guys to end up naming this damn thing the mental approach, and because I've said it so many times, but be intentional in your day. That is so important, to have intentionality in your day. I mean, and it's someone could say, "Oh, that's easy to say." It's also easy to do. Inside of your job, you have responsibilities, tasks, what have you. But be intentional with what you do. So going to your example, you have these conversations with Brandon in this instance. But the intentionality around spending time with someone, get something out of it. Make sure that you aren't depleted by the conversation. It should be a give and take with that person, depending on the setting, because there's going to be other instances where someone is going to be looking to pour into you. John Maxwell has this philosophy of deposits and withdrawals in relationships. Mm-hmm. The intentionality around who you spend your time with, what conversations that you have in that setting. I have friends that, they may call, "Hey, what you doing? Let's hang out." And not that I don't like them or not that I don't enjoy spending time with them, not in that day.
Yep.
That day isn't not in that day. Not in that day. My day in my mind is the work and being intentional in that instance. So just the intentionality around the conversations that you have with people that you spend time with, because anybody can invite you over. Is it that day to do that though, or is it that day for you to receive for Brandon, or is there some soul here in the lounge that may have hit you as well, that you have to pour into them? Mm-hmm. So you balance those things.
Backing all the way up to what you said at the very beginning, no wasn't just shoot and breeze. What I appreciate so much about our relationship, and it's so cool, I hope people who are watching can understand and feel this that we have together, mm-hmm. which is a true friendship where I want both of you to get as much value out of our relationship as you give to ours. And there wouldn't be a day that, Jay, you wouldn't say, "Hey, can we get together? Biz, can we get together?" Mm-hmm. There's never a day that I would go, where does he sit? I have some friends that I now, understanding my own value, my own worth, my own everything, where I have to say, I've got other things. And there have been things that have happened recently where I went, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Oh, I understand we're friends, but I've got a family.
Right.
And spending 2 hours sitting on my ass with my kids is more important than doing something else. And understanding your own worth,
sure.
Understanding your own time, mm-hmm. understanding your own mortality, I think it's valuable because it puts a little fire behind it. But that's one thing that I appreciate the most. One of the things I appreciate the most about you, Jay, is I get such a genuine connection with you where you go, when you just ask things like, what's the biggest difference? What is the biggest difference between you and, let's say, another cigar manufacturer? This bag represents that. This bag, these cigars we're smoking, you dropped it and said, "I want to know what you think. I want to know what you think." And that tells me that we respect you as much as you respect us, and you're open to that. How do I get better? How do I do this? Does this fit? Does this work? And surrounding yourself with people you can trust that have your best interests in mind, you can't trade that for anything.
Yeah.
If you took the opportunity to have a VC that's going to fund your company and take it to the ultimate level of vertical integration, or 3 people that you can trust that's going to be real with you, I'll take the people every time.
100%. 100%. I mean, on the ICCU, for those of you who don't know, Brandon and the industrial team here, Busy filmed it. We did a piece on the cigar company of Definition Cigars, and we talked about the drivers therein for that, and the whole process and how we arrived with cigars in your family's lounge. And Man, it's a dope story, but you cannot replicate ever when someone wants to see you do well. Not off of a monetary value of what they could get or that sort of thing, but hey, man, let's give this guy some feedback, or let's have a conversation. Whether we would have advanced to being able to enter in a partnership together or not, there was so much that came from that, and as a result, you guys deposited a big check in my bank account that I didn't, in terms of relationship that I wasn't expecting. So therein, you now have equity in this relationship because you've done things the right way by me, and it's just it's really cool when you have that, when you have those instances. In terms of business, do you run into that every time? No, business is business. That's why it has its own name. But you got to value those times where you find that at, though, Brandon. It's huge.
But you can tell your mindset and your drive from the very first time somebody meets you and your crew. When I first met you, and so this to do with the band of cigars or whatever, and we had a lot of things in common. Sure. Me from living in Virginia and whatever, but that's the one thing that's kind of cool. When people find things in common and they run with it, you can just sense a person in their first conversation. Sure. And then when I met when we did your business partner's birthday party, I did photos and I got to meet everybody, and they were on the same level of welcomeness. Nobody treated me like I was just a photographer, whatever. No, when I say it was like you part of the crew. Come on in, you with us, let's go. And birds of a feather, I truly believe, flock together because everybody in that room, I went to the anniversary party, DJ'd that and looked at it, and it was just the level of people's mindset. There were no body above anybody. There was nobody below. It was just like being here at the lounge where everybody, no matter what walk of life you come from, once you enter that room, you're all the same. But you can just say the mindset, and everybody was there to celebrate your success and to contribute towards it. Because everybody bought sticks. There was a young lady from Houston that had the accessories. We all supported that. And it was just a big round robin of giving. And when I mean giving, I should say supporting. And it just made sense. But that's something that we always talk about. Depending on where you're from, you have to go somewhere. What's her name? Kelly Price, the singer. One of the decisions that helped my wife, it took Kelly Price to get my wife to finally give the blessings to move, even though the U-Haul was already packed and I was leaving that ass anyway, if she didn't come. But Kelly Price said one thing, and I kind of noticed this. Sometimes if you cast a fishing rod, if you cast your line into sand, you can't expect to catch fish. You have to go to where the fish are biting. That could be moving to a different city. That could be changing a group of friends. And that's also within your mindset. Mindset is the biggest thing. When you bring up John Maxwell, Entrepreneur Leader was a book, and it was all about, first half is about mindset. How can you lead anyone if you're not in the right state of mind to show by example? And I know you talk about that a lot. You expect people that run with you to run with you, not to walk, not to be drugged, but to actually run with you, and everybody's just in their certain place. But I don't believe that maybe everybody can't keep up at your pace, and what I mean by that, that's not an excuse for them. It's just that where they are then in your world, where they fit in your world.
And Biz, we go back to benchmarks. And I don't know the specific setting, and the context, and you bringing that up, but that is an example of you taking a step back and asking yourself, do I need to now level up?
Yep.
And that's exactly full circle to knowing if you level up, you have to change the pond. You have to graduate from a pond to a lake, and a lake to an ocean.
Yes. And
if you continue to run with the same fish, you're just a small fich, or you're the biggest fish in the smallest pond.
Yep. And nobody's able to grow in that pond. So, don't know the context, but it's time for you to level up. So, okay, who's ready to grow? Johnny, I'll work with you in these responsibilities. You do X, Y, and Z. You find how do I make this pond here now become a lake? Mm-hmm. Let me get out of the pond mindset and get down into the lake mindset.
And to do that is a big difference to not only the mindset that you have to change, but the actions in the way you have to swim. Because I hear this often, and we've gone through where it's time to start making money. It's time to start doing this. It's time I got to grow. We got to do this. But unless you're willing to stay in the empty gym and shoot threes because one day you're going to put up 50 on the board, don't talk about it unless you're willing to do it. Mm-hmm. Don't talk about starting a business, back to your point. Don't put that unless you're willing to sit your ass in that chair, in that truck for 80 hours a week.
If you're passionate, right? Smelling the oil, changing the tires, and doing this, if you're going to part-time do it, why do it?
Yeah, you're exactly right.
If you're going to half-ass do it, you need to be 100. I believe in the words that were said to me. Either you're 100 or you're not. Or in the great words of my man from Talladega Nights, either if you ain't first, you're last.
My biggest, we'll just run with it. My biggest pet peeve right now in the world we live in is one term: passive income. That is, to me, I don't know. I don't know if it irks anyone else, but when they're like, I want to make some passive income, I want to do this. What is that?
But that's part of what I was saying in the beginning. The whole terminologies, the whole thing. Any YouTube video you work, so everybody is like obsessed with this money while you sleep.
These talking bobblehead things.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit. You know what it is? Your investments from your hard work to create the profits to reinvest into other things. Passive doesn't mean you get to do some subscription and tell someone how to run a business because you have a camera and you think you know business. That doesn't mean anything because that doesn't pass the sniff test. And unless you're willing to put in that work, unless you're willing to do by action, and as I say here, is I am going to set the wake that everyone else can wakeboard in through my actions. And unless you're willing to do it, then shut up.
I asked both of y'all, how do you know when it's time to chin check yourself?
When you wake up?
I do it every day. Yep. Oh my goodness, Biz. I mean, man, and not getting too religious. I'm a Christian, and I fall short of the glory of God every day, which is why I have to repent. But I am not who I want to be. I told a friend this, was really troubled in his heart, and was kicking himself, and had really had this 10-mile vantage point. He's trying to look 10 miles ahead. And I broke it down simply to him to say, be the best version of yourself for your wife, for your kids, for your family, for whatever, than you were yesterday. And then do the same thing the next day. And then do the same thing the next day. And you look at that over a 30-day period of time, you would hope that someone, if they've committed to that mindset, that they were better on day 31 than they were day 1 of the month. Mm-hmm. So directly answering your question, and then we can move to Brandon. Man, I do that. I do that every morning, every day.
So you check it against the day prior?
Yeah, and my personal performance the day prior, how I treated people that I came in contact with, how I spoke to someone, how that person may view me. Biz, there are times when I've been justified in whatever action I took, and then I have to deal with that the next day. There have been times when, I've celebrated or partied and woke up the next day and felt like I wanted to apologize to everybody.
I'm so glad we're having this conversation because I want to be just super open and honest. I look at the side effects of my life, and that tells me what's happening. And right now, as we sit right here, I am losing, and I know I'm losing in this element. And I'm glad you asked this question because it's allowed me to stop for a second and chin check myself, because I know, because of the way, I mean, this is as open and as behind the curtains as possible, but my wife said something to me yesterday that I gave her a bullshit response, and I gave her attitude that she didn't warrant, she didn't deserve. And honestly, it's because I know I have internal frustrations because I have not maximized who I could be this week. And that 10% that I took off pushing tabs back and forth or waiting for an email to come in to make myself feel worth, because I'm slightly ahead in certain things that we have going on, instead of filling up that 10% with stuff that can enrich, or just cut out 10% early and go hang with my kids. I know that. So I internalize that frustration and it comes out, and I'm glad we're having this conversation because I know I can go home and make that right, because I can look at it and go, if I ever lash out at somebody and I'm not super smiley and that, I know something's out of balance. Right. And by doing that life mastery planner every day, I'm going, how full is my day? Can I get all these done? If I can get all these done by noon, I didn't stack enough. So now I got to go get it. And I've gotten through that list, and I haven't gone back to get it and go, let's revisit priorities. What can I do to be better at this? I kind of make my way through, and I help with certain things, and I just become a fill man. And I think just revisiting who you are as a person and who you're going to be remembered as, you just have to be prepared to be true with yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's at any given point. That's at a point where you just surround yourself as often as you can with people who are better than you. In this instance, I have two people who are better than me sitting in the room, which helps me grow as a person to go, I got to get it together. I got to make things right.
B, I'll give you another example real quick. Spent a beautiful time in Miami the past weekend. Came back and got invested in Definition, and subsequently wasn't as accountable to personal relationships as I have been. You know, you learn to navigate around work and those sort of things. But I came back and jumped into Definition with both feet and said, man, I'll get to everything else. As a result, and again, like yourself, just pulling back the curtain, again, as a result, I found myself in turmoil and having tough conversations, and or now I'm behaving differently than I have. And for someone outside of yourself, you know, hey, I'm just working, I'm just getting to it, I'm getting back to it. But that other person is saying, you're behaving differently. What's going on? And then you, instead of dealing with it, you defend it.
Yep, you do. You double down on it. You're going, and that's what I said. I've got to do this right now. And it's like, and she just looked at me, and I went outside and I called the team. Hey, you guys got this? Yeah, we got it. Okay. I went inside and I went, boy, I'm a dick. I didn't actually have to do this, but you defend it because I got to grind. I got to do this.
You guys are calling me out so bad because I'm sitting here thinking about my kids, my boys, like my little one. You know, little kids have no filter. You're going to work again. You're going to film again. And by the time you get home, they're getting ready to go to bed, you know, or they're just like, okay, I mean, I made sure, you know, and then my bad part is that being transparent. It's like, okay, I made it mandatory. I don't give nothing else that's going on unless it's just absolutely necessary. I don't miss their football games.
Sure.
You know, got to go to their football games, got to support, got to do whatever. My wife is kind of like, maybe he will, maybe he won't. And when she kind of started having that attitude, I'm like, oh, shit, that's not good. You know, even tonight, when we leave here tonight, like I'm going home and we're playing a board game. We're doing something because it's like I literally just go home, grab some fruit, go in my office and start editing something and start working, and they'll come in, kiss me goodnight and go to bed. Like, that's their thing. They know at least if daddy's there to kiss them goodnight or whatever, if I do miss that, run upstairs and let them do it. But I'm just like, as you're sitting here, when you just said the thing, but you defend it, because what's the first words out of my mouth? Hey, daddy's gone because these lights need to be paid. Daddy's gone because your Xbox subscription. Daddy's gone because that food in the refrigerator. And it's like, that's not fair to them.
No.
That's
and
not
you
fair.
water down the most important shots of medicine in your life, right? That reality. As soon as you start making excuses as to why you're busy, as to why you're there.
See, I have older kids that all we got to do is text each other because they have their lives.
Sure,
and doing whatever.
sure, right.
So that's a little easier, but you forget about the two young ones that are still at home, and mom's trying to do what she's trying to do and she's balancing it. So I don't want them to think the role of a father is to be gone all the time, working or in the office all the time, and da-da-da-da-da. And like, as I'm listening to you, I was getting until you said you defend that. And then I was like, ooh.
You do. I mean,
Oh, damn,
so
you're right.
for me, I have a different situation. I have kids that live in Virginia, and man, it's tough because they don't understand proximity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
They just want to see daddy.
yeah, and you know the whole once a month thing is try to maximize it, but it's you know it's never enough. So Biz, I'll give you this. I mean, you're there, and that means a great deal at that age. As they get older and become adults, they understand what it takes to provide. But when they're that young, I go home or rest at night, understanding that I failed my kids in some ways, and what situation that they find themselves in with where I'm at and where they at, and it's tough. So, and your transparency and understanding that you provide and you are who you are, you try to maximize, but at the same time, Biz, being there is so equally important. And relationship happens, different things happen with different folks, and sometimes you work through it. But as a person who feels failure in that area, man, take solace in knowing that being there and being able to get that kiss or being able to make that up the next day.
I have an experience. So my daughter was born when I was in the Army, when I was living in Virginia, and when I went home, she was still there. So my 27-year-old and I's relationship was literally from the time she was 2 until 27 was just based on summers. I only seen her in the summer. So I totally understand where you're coming from. There was phone calls and this and that, whatever, but summers and an occasional Christmas until she became like a teenager, and then it got better. But basically, and unfortunately, if anybody understands this, you know, we didn't get a chance to have a full-time relationship until the child support commitment was over, when she was 18 and going to college. And then when all those rules and regulations and restrictions got out the way,
She can make a choice.
Exactly. But I made sure and did the best I could by calling. And this is before FaceTime and all that stuff like that we had that much of a link that when she could make that choice, it was like we did get that nightly kiss. We are as tight as ever going through it. So knowing what you're going through now, I'm actually a little more pissed off at myself because I got 2 little boys here that are with me 24/7. And I'm treating them like they're here for the summer. Sometimes that's what it feels like. You know, when your kid says, oh, you got to go to work again. And like you said, to defend that, you know, old school. Now, grandma and them used to say that. That's what I was
They
raised by
certainly
grandma. They
did.
used to say that. But you see that food, that's why you fat now, because I'm going to work. You know, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, wait a minute, hold on, time out. I get it, you know, but it is a different age that our kids are being raised in.
Exactly.
They're not being raised like you were raised by your pops, like we was raised by our grandparents.
Yep.
These kids are like so numb to everything.
Well, they're so exposed to everything.
you go.
Exactly.
There
That's
it
the
is.
problem.
Nothing shocks them, you know.
and
So it's like
It's a scary thing, but I asked my dad that because I believe he's a great man. I believe he's a great father, businessman. I believe he's a successful person, greatly respected. And I said, what's the key? What's the key? And it's so funny you guys are saying that. You know what his only response was? Be there. And that goes to business. Be there. Be there for your team, family. Be there. And whatever be there looks like it. Because look, we were basically raised by grandma when my dad was a single dad because Pops was a traveling salesman. So Monday to Thursday night.
So we all got that same.
Grandma Mickey, she did a great deal.
That's why you say her and my mom would get along so well together. Same thing.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, she raised us, but just being there, and for those who own businesses, you just sometimes you don't have to change the world. Sometimes you just got to go and chug. You just got to go. Just move it forward. If you got 10% to give today, give it 10, give it 11.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, without a doubt. I'm struggling with that a little bit right now because I have a full-time day-to-day with a ton of responsibility and definition that is becoming
full-time,
becoming something else.
Beast.
And now I want to talk to you about that a little bit because I can see that within your growth because you probably need to grow definition outside of, I don't know how many markets you're in.
Yeah.
You're exploding in this market, but when it comes to the scalability of your business, I think you're going to lose a lot of grassroots without, I don't know what that looks like and what you jump. There's going to have to be a jump period where you go, okay, definition's got what it takes to run. Okay, now I need to go start knocking on doors, at least in TOLA, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana.
Sure.
And start getting outside because when you offer you offer the same product to everyone. If someone has to drive past 6 stores that have your product to get to our store, you start getting to this point where, I don't know how many retailers you're in right now, but it's getting to be a lot, which is fantastic, and it's awesome to see. But I forecast the requirement to scale in a new way, where it's not, either it is Jay who's walking in the door, or it's not Jay walking in the door many, many, many miles from here to scale it to where it needs to be. Because the business you've created is phenomenal, and it does well here because of good reason.
Right.
But when it comes to that scalability of the business, I see you in a real point to define who Definition Cigars is. And is it going to be a Dallas-Fort Worth company?
Right.
Which is really easy. Well, I don't want to say I don't want to make that
no, I know what
too
you're
easy.
saying,
but do you want to be that, or do you want to be something else?
Right.
And I could imagine that to be some sort of a daily question you ask yourself.
Yeah, it is. And, you talk about progress and growth. Just added a person inside of Houston to support growth there. And, I'm venturing to South Jersey, just outside of Philadelphia, next Thursday for an event introducing new blends, and Las Vegas is on the. So
you going to Vegas? You going to TP?
No, this is a separate thing. It's a cut and smoke type of vibration. So what you're saying is starting to take shape. So I'm considering some things at present, but yeah, be going back to the mental approach. I rest on that, and trying to make sure that I am walking in the not in my own will. And what I mean is that I truly believe that there's a grand plan, and when I think I'm operating under what Jamond wants to do, as opposed to being a part of the plan, I think that's where it gets a little. It's jaded or shady. It doesn't go well. So I make sure that I'm patient, paying my dues, having conversations with people who are knowledgeable and who can give to me. And I think all those things are part of the plan. It's part of the being intentional that I talked about. Growth is growth. I've shared this, I think, with both of you guys before. I tell this story all the time. There's a hip hop artist by the name of Wale that created an album, and Jerry Seinfeld narrated it. And before a song on that album, I think it was Lotus Bomb. Lotus Bomb. Jerry Seinfeld speaks of growth, and he says growth is growth. You can't prepare for it. You can't write down and be ready for growth. It is growth. You just take it in and stretch and then go. So in my patience and in my intentionality, I want to make sure that in when that growth happens, or when it's time to grow in that way, that not that I will ever be prepared for it, not by any instance, because it is growth, that I am accepting of what that growth may do to me. And that's big, because I can't prepare for it, but I have to be accepting to it. And I'm getting there.
And I think that's why your business is growing, because you're open to it. I think you see a lot of people who quiver at growth.
You have the right mindset to accept it and keep it moving. I mean, there's going to be growing pains, but you get past those. You keep it moving. You keep it pushing. And I think the whole, prepare for failure thing is if you fail at one thing, all it is, if you take a right instead of a left, make a U-turn and go back and take the right.
That's the thing as well, is I think we spoke about that a couple weeks ago or whenever. You can always go back and do what you were doing. There's always return to sender.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can always go, whoops.
The human being is the only being on the planet that can actually change its direction at any time. A bear has to hibernate. Bees have to follow their path. Birds have to fly. It's in their DNA. But you can get it right now and go buy a cow and start doing milk. Doesn't matter. We can change our direction at any time.
That's one of the greatest gifts that we were given. And I go back to this. It's free will.
Yes.
What other being on this earth has that?
None.
That is
not only the being, but having the blessing of being in this country. That's
without a doubt,
given.
that's the other side. Yeah,
right?
That's what we really talked about the other day, because I just asked what would be the differences, and there was just some things, because all the craziness with guns and this and that and the third and all that other stuff. But when you really look at it and the freedoms that we have, some people take advantage, some people skew it out of order. But I mean, that's
go to another country.
Exactly.
I tell people that I for a short time, I was 11 years old. My mom and I moved to Jamaica, and we was going to make a life there. And the school that I would have had to have went to continue, progressing in my education was 2 hours away. Wow. It's a bus ride there. It's a bus ride back. Not a native of the country, obviously. So there's another side of it.
That.
So I ended up coming back stateside, obviously. But my point and where I was going is that what if we would have had no free will to send me to my grandma and granddaddy? What if that was it? What if that was it for me? Mm-hmm. And to do that, I mean, it could have been great. I don't know, but I do know that, and what I believe in a grand plan, that I'm accepting of that, and I'm blessed that we went with what we thought was right in that instance. Because you I mean, they've created movies about the kid, you know, that their family moves, or dad or mom moves for a job or whatever, right? And then they go there and they got to learn a different culture. They're getting picked on, or they're, you know, then they struggle. But always in the movie, they persevere, right, and become this. That's not
the
real
Karate
life,
Kid.
That's not real life for everybody.
Yep.
So I mean,
I was always taught, well, and I say this to Brandon all the time, and I read it. I don't know which one of the thousands of books I read, but it said, imagine your funeral, and what would you want them to say about you at your eulogy, and work backwards from there. It's just that simple. What kind of person?
Welcome to my seeking of greatness.
That's it. Just what do you want said at your eulogy? What things you want to? What do you want to be known for? Family, friends, business, whatever it is. Write it down and work it backwards from there.
And I think, B. So we first talked about greatness in a way in which, maybe from a business perspective, or maybe even from an athletic perspective, right? But greatness has different forms, and you guys touched on it, but we weren't intentional in identify it. You talk about your family, you talk about your dad, you talk about your family and your kids, being great at that. You know what that looks like.
Yeah.
You know what that looks like. That's a no-brainer. You know what that looks like. So I think you take some of those thoughts, characteristics, approaches to that, and you bring those into whatever
else that you think is lacking,
field of expertise that you kind of look to be great at. Because I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I think he kind of answered your question.
Yeah, I think he did.
Literally with that statement right there.
Which means what you need to do for everyone who's watching is come in here to the shop, grab a Definition cigar, fire it up, and
get with like-minded people,
and define your own greatness.
As we wrap it up, I will say that I have elevated my mindset is elevated so much more because I'm not the smartest person in the room. As much as
should you ever be?
No, because if you are, you got to get out of that room. You know, but even though as much as I love to talk, I love sitting in the corner and just ingesting it all in, just to see what's what do you get? Because you get a gym, and like I said, every person that I've been involved with here as of the last 3 to 4 years, I take something away from each conversation.
Yeah.
You know, if I give something, that's great. If they take it, but it's just, and you know how to separate the BS from the real.
Sure.
First time I did this. I'll be back.
Uh-oh. Well, he's being real, ladies and gentlemen. It's a bathroom break. First thing we ever had, man. But, you know, just to, I'll say this, and we'll leave it at that. Do you set, in, like, when I get here in so many years, I want to get there, like when you set goals, how are your goals set? Do you do them daily, weekly, annually? Do you get them, like me and him have a planner that we do, and I set a goal for every 90 days. You know, getting back in the gym. We got it good. Boom. Knocked down 15 pounds. I'm back to benching 240, doing all this other stuff. Got that goal crossed off. But the problem with goals for me, once I achieve the goal, the habits that I had to get that goal, they wane because I'm focusing on a new one. And I'm trying to get it to where once I achieve that, that's just a daily thing I do. Now let me add to that. That's what I have to work on.
Yeah, B. So I said, let me back up. In being in the business world, you know, one of the catch things is to say, we want to know what your 3-year goal is or your 5-year goal for this. And man, this is no knock against anybody. And again, going back to defining who you are, that never really worked for me. I can see out there, but I don't really feel that it's actually tangible, because man, anything can happen in business, right? I mean, there could be a pandemic called COVID-19, right? And then it goes away, and then you know, you could scramble. So for me, B, I look at being scalable in my environment. So, and what I mean is that, all right, I sold on day one of the month. We pushed out 100 boxes of cigars, 75 boxes of cigars. I go to the data and look at year-over-year numbers of what we did same time this year. Okay, now I'm starting to develop my scale. All right, there's growth in there. So, and looking at next week's orders from our customers, now how are they moving cigars? How are the cigars moving? So now I have a two-week vantage point from a business perspective of where we're going. So from there, I have a feel for what I need to do to create a goal for where I want to land at the next day one of next month in terms of business. Over a large scale and operating and running a company, men lie, women lie, numbers never lie. Mm-hmm. So I go to the data. I look at the numbers and look over year numbers, week over week numbers, month over month numbers, to make sure that while I use gut, G-U-T, in a lot of decisions that I make, I also use it with some education to ensure that I'm in the best place. I'll give you an example. We do a buyback program with our customers that any box that's intact, we'll give them, something back on it. And that decision being made there, so there's obviously important to me, but there's also something there for the customer. So in terms of my goals for my business and what I'm looking at in terms of the box side of my business, I'm communicating with my customers. I'm able to also see numbers and how cigars are being moved, and I am able to project in how we're scaling as a company and our continued growth, and being able to save on how and when I purchase boxes or my approach to doing that.
Do you know what the real value of the buyback is for your customers? Do you know why we like it?
No, I do not know why you guys like it.
Because that means at least every 2 weeks I get to see you. Be there. Too easy to just sell it in. Good luck. See you later. You're going to come here and you're going to pick up the boxes and you're going to, the buyback is fine. It's right. Great. It's a cool thing. It's something. It's really cool. And I don't know anyone else that's doing it, but you're going to be there and you're going to be able to go, oh, looks like you're out of 919s again for the third time this week. You get to see that feedback. Right. But for us, we know that you're going to be here for it because it's important to you to get back because it helps your production, everything through. But that's where the real value is.
That's awesome to hear. But Biz, that is my approach. I try not to get too far ahead, and this is relational to business. But I set any goals with an educated approach. I try to. If I was to try to predict, if you try to sit here, especially in what you do, B, let's just take the pictures for instance. I want a goal to do 200 events. Let's just throw out a number there. What does that look like for you? Okay, so you can go out and you can grind and you can talk to every Tom, Dick, and Harry or what have you. But what happens if Jay-Z and Beyonce hold you down for a month, right? And while you may have an immediate monetary hit for that year's goal and seeing customers and doing a number of events, to be able to realize over the full year, yeah, you can probably negotiate that. But I'm just talking about strictly on your goals. Then you have to reinvent them anyway.
True. So we were talking about goals and things, and even related to you, if you have set, like, so what you're saying is that you can set goals, but they can't be set in concrete or stone because things evolve, things happen.
Gotta be water. Gotta be water. I think what I would recommend others to do is create who you are on a sheet of paper. What are the buckets that are most important to you? Business, friendship, family, whatever it is. How are they going to explain you? Put that on a piece of paper, laminate it, put it in the shower. Look at it every day.
Yep.
Who do you want to be in 3 years is much different than where do you want to be in 3 years.
There you go.
I'm going to leave it at that.
I remember being in 8th grade, and Brandon, that is it. Not who, not where. I remember doing push-ups in my bedroom, and I took a notebook piece of paper and drew the letter V. I wanted to play varsity basketball before it was my time as a true 11th or 12th grader, and that's who I wanted to be. I didn't set that 15 push-ups a day and run a decent amount of hills and whatever have you. I didn't get caught up in that. I got so involved with what it took to be a varsity basketball player, and then what it took to get that, as opposed to saying, I need to make sure I do 100 pull-ups, or may not be 100 today. It may be 50 and go catch rec at the park. Or, hey, man, go to another city over and catch rec at that. What did being a varsity basketball player look to me? And if it was an important enough goal, I'm going to navigate my way because the mental approach.
Going back to the core of the conversation.
Yeah. Jay, I want to say thank you. Appreciate you. I appreciate you on many different levels, but predominantly as a friend. You're a guy who has deposited a ton to my life.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And
you as well.
Thank you. And it's just super valuable conversation, and I hope people who are listening took something from it, because there's a lot to unpack. One of which means
spilled some stuff.
I gotta get home and apologize to my wife.
Yeah, definitely board game night for me tonight.
Yeah, no, this helps straighten things out. If someone wants to learn about Definition Cigars and you, Jay, where do they go?
Go to definitionscigars.com. We're on Instagram at Definition Cigars, on Twitter at Definition Cigar 1, and on Facebook at Jeos Papan, JEOCPIPAN.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys for having me.
And this won't be the last time.
Awesome. Go local.